She never spoke, never raised her eyes, and never fought back until the moment they crossed the line. What happened next turned the entire school into a battlefield of justice they never saw coming. If you want more powerful stories that twist fate and crush expectations, subscribe now and never miss the next jaw-dropping tale. Bullies play with the shy girl. Seconds later, they begged for mercy. She was known only as Mouse in the school, whispered quiet, hiding behind thick glasses, always clutching her books like a shield and walking like a ghost through crowded halls. Her voice rarely heard, her presence often ignored, except by the pack of merciless bullies who saw her silence not as strength but as weakness, and for weeks they hunted her like wolves, circling a wounded deer, mocking her clothes, flipping her tray in the cafeteria, tearing pages out of her sketchbook when she sat alone, never once thinking that the girl they pushed around would ever push. Back until the day they made their final mistake, the day they trapped her in the science lab after school, lights off, doors locked, whispering threats and laughing while one of them recorded it on his phone for social media clout, thinking it would go viral. But what happened next didn't just go viral, it went nuclear, because as they circled her, laughing like hyenas, Mouse lifted her head slowly, calmly removed her glasses, and uttered her first words to them with a voice so cold, so steady, it made them stop mid-laugh. "You shouldn't have touched my bag," she said, eyes suddenly glowing with something unnatural, something ancient, and that's when the lights exploded in the lab and everything turned red, not just metaphorically, but literally, because blood, fear, fire suddenly took over the room as the walls began to move, stretching and breathing like a living thing, and the air turned heavy like drowning in darkness. And that's when one of the bullies, Jason, the ringleader, screamed that this wasn't funny anymore, but it was too late, because Mouse was no longer Mouse. She was something else entirely. Something sleeping inside her had woken up. Something none of them could explain, and she moved without. Floated rather, and with every step she took, another shadow rose behind her shadows with claws and hollow faces, whispering their names like a curse, and suddenly the bullies were children again, lost, helpless, and completely at her mercy, trying to apologize, to beg, to explain they didn't mean it, but their words turned to dust in their mouths, and she smiled, God. She smiled as one by one they were lifted into the air by invisible hands, forced to relive every moment of cruelty they'd ever inflicted on others, not just on her, but on every victim who ever cried in silence. And they screamed, they begged, they promised to change, to repent, but she wasn't listening, not yet, because for her, this wasn't about revenge, it was about reckoning. It's the universe settling the score through her, its chosen vessel, and outside the lab, students started gathering, watching through the glass as the shadows danced and screamed and the bullies thrashed in midair like marionettes on fire, and no one moved, no one called for help, because deep down everyone knew they deserved it. And deep down, everyone knew Mouse wasn't who they thought she was, because the real Mouse had died a year ago in that very same school. Found in the girls' restroom with wrists slit open after relentless bullying, and this girl, the one, standing now with power crackling in her fingertips, was her twin sister Maya, who disappeared after the funeral, only to return with her sister's soul living inside her, reborn through grief, rage, and something darker, something summoned. And the twist? The bullies had mocked the real Mouse into suicide, and when Maya came back as a transfer student under a new name, no one recognized her because she made sure they wouldn't. She disguised herself, blended in, waited, watched until the moment came to unleash the storm she had kept buried for so long. But just when the shadows began to tighten their grip to deliver the final punishment, one of the bullies, Stina, the only girl in the group, whispered something Maya didn't expect. "I was just scared. They made me join them." And those words hit Maya like a bullet of truth, freezing the air, silencing the shadows, because that's when she remembered her sister's journal. The page that said, "I wish someone had stood up for me, ... anyone." And with trembling hands, Maya let Tina fall gently to the ground, unconscious but unharmed, while the rest were slammed into the walls. Knocked out cold but alive, punished, yes, but given a second chance. And as the shadows disappeared and the room returned to normal, Maya collapsed in the middle of the lab floor. Breathing heavy, her face streaked with tears. Because revenge hadn't healed her, it only proved how broken everything really was. But she also knew she had given a voice to those who never had one. And the next day, the school was different. Silent, respectful, haunted even, as if everyone had seen something sacred and terrifying in the bullies. They changed completely, became quiet, kind, even volunteered to start an anti-bullying club. And though no one ever spoke about what really happened in that lab, they all understood one thing. The shy girl they once mocked had become a legend. Not because she screamed or fought, but because she made them beg for mercy without ever raising a hand. And when Maya finally left the school months later, transferring again without warning, her legend remained. And some say they still see her shadow walking the halls at night, protecting the ones too scared to speak, reminding everyone that sometimes the quietest girl in the room is the one the universe listens to the most. And if you ever think of mocking the silent one again, remember, not all ghosts stay dead, and not all girls stay shy. Asterisk.